When you turn on a light in your house at night, what happens? Well, the light comes on and you can see. If you're outside looking at your house, you can see that light coming from the window. The light travels outward. Now, if there were aliens somewhere beyond your house looking back, they could see your light. They could detect it. We know this is true because we can detect light coming from distant stars, billions of light years away. Light travels and we can see it. So here's the natural question that people ask. If there are alien civilizations out there, wouldn't they be broadcasting signals? Wouldn't they be sending light or radio waves or something across space? And if they are, shouldn't we be able to detect it? This is actually a pretty reasonable line of thinking. It's almost intuitive. You'd expect advanced civilizations to be advertising their presence in some way. But the more I think about this, the more I realize there's something wrong with this assumption. And it's not that aliens don't exist. It's that we're making a big mistake about where we should be looking and what it would mean if we could see them. Let me think about this differently. Let's imagine you're an alien civilization. You're advanced. You have technology that we can barely dream of. You can build great machines. You can manipulate energy. You can do remarkable things. Now the question is, what would you do with that energy? Would you broadcast it out into space for anyone and everyone to receive, or would you be more careful about it? See, here's the thing about broadcasting signals into space, and this is important. It costs energy, a lot of energy. When we send signals out, when we transmit radio waves or light, we're using up energy to do it. And that energy radiates outward in all directions. It's not like shining a flashlight at someone where the light goes in one direction. It's more like standing in the middle of a field and yelling as loud as you can. Your voice goes out in all directions. Someone who wants to hear you has to be within the range of your voice, and they have to be listening at the right time. Now let's think about the universe. The universe is big, incomprehensibly big. If you broadcast a signal, the strength of that signal decreases as it travels. In fact, it decreases with what we call the inverse square law. That means if you double the distance, the signal becomes 4 times weaker. If you triple it, it becomes 9 times weaker. So you're pouring energy outward, and the farther it goes, the weaker it becomes. Eventually, it becomes so weak that no one can detect it anymore. This creates what we might call a leakage sphere. Any civilization broadcasting signals into space would only be detectable by civilizations that are within a certain distance, the distance at which the signal is still strong enough to be noticed above the background noise of the universe. The moment you go beyond that distance, you can't detect them anymore, even if they're broadcasting at maximum power. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is the part I really want you to think about. How far apart would civilizations likely be? Well, in our own galaxy, the Milky Way, there are something on the order of 100 to 200 billion stars, maybe more. If intelligent civilizations are rare, and we have every reason to think they are, then the nearest one to us could be very, very far away. Some estimates suggest tens of thousands of light years. Some say much farther. We don't really know. But the point is, the distances are enormous. So imagine you're a civilization trying to decide, should we broadcast our presence out into the universe? Should we spend enormous amounts of energy continuously transmitting signals into space in all directions, when the nearest civilization might be so far away that our signals will never reach them, when it might take thousands or millions of years before those signals could possibly be received, and when there's no guarantee that anyone is even listening? This is where the real paradox comes in, and I think it's much more interesting than people usually talk about. If you're an advanced civilization, you would probably realize very quickly that broadcasting continuously is wasteful. It's energetically expensive, and it's probably pointless. You're not going to hit anyone. You're just throwing energy away into the void. So what would you do instead? Well, you might listen. You might point your receivers at the universe and listen for patterns, for signals coming from other civilizations. This is what we're doing. We're listening with SETI, trying to detect signals from others. But here's the thing. If they're smart, if they're advanced, wouldn't they be listening too? Wouldn't they have realized the same thing we're realizing, that broadcasting is wasteful? And if everyone is listening and no one is broadcasting, well then of course you're not going to hear anything. The universe is quiet, not because there are no aliens, but because they're all being sensible about energy. They're all sitting in the dark, listening, just like we are. Now I want to push on this idea a bit more because there's another layer to it, and this is where the title of this talk comes in. Aliens are not where the light is. Think about what happens when a civilization broadcasts, when they send out signals, when they illuminate themselves. They're telling everyone in the universe where they are. They're putting a giant target on themselves. They're saying, look at us, we're here, we have technology. And here's a question we don't usually like to think about. Would that be safe? Throughout history, What's happened when one civilization encounters another that's technologically inferior? Well, sometimes it's peaceful. Sometimes we have trade and exchange of ideas, but not always. Sometimes the more advanced civilization simply takes what it wants. The less advanced civilization doesn't stand a chance. Now, I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm not trying to say that the universe is necessarily filled with hostile aliens waiting to conquer us. But I am saying that if you're an intelligent civilization, you have to think about the risks. You have to think about the possibility that broadcasting your location to the universe might not be the best strategy. You might attract the wrong kind of attention. So an advanced civilization, a truly advanced civilization, might maintain what we could call radio silence. They might stay hidden. They might listen for others, but they wouldn't broadcast. They wouldn't light up the universe with their presence. And if this is true, and if it's true for most advanced civilizations, then the universe should be quiet. We should be detecting very little. And indeed, that's what we find. We find a universe that's largely silent. But there's another possibility, and I think this is important to consider. Maybe some civilizations do broadcast. Maybe they're not thinking about the energy costs or the security risks. Maybe they're new civilizations, young civilizations that haven't thought through the implications. Maybe they're broadcasting their presence into space without really understanding what they're doing. If that's the case, where would we find their signals? Where would they be coming from? Well, they would be coming from stars, right? They would be coming from the neighborhoods around stars, from the planetary systems where these civilizations exist. But here's the thing. We live around a star, too. We live in the neighborhood of the sun. And if there were broadcasting civilizations in the neighborhood of other stars, we'd expect to detect their signals coming from those directions. And we haven't. This brings me to another important point about light and visibility. When we look at a star, we see light coming from that star. That light is the fusion reaction happening in the core of the star. It's the light from a massive nuclear furnace. Now, if there's an alien civilization living around that star, orbiting that star, or living on planets in that system, they would be in the shadow of that light in some sense. The overwhelming amount of light we receive from that direction is coming from the star itself, not from the civilization. In fact, any signals they might send would have to compete with the noise and radiation from the star itself. The star is so bright that it drowns everything out. So if we're looking for signals from nearby stars, we're looking for needles in haystacks. Or perhaps more accurately, we're looking for flickers of a candle in the middle of a searchlight. And here's where I want to bring in an idea that's kind of elegant, in my opinion. If you're looking for civilizations that are broadcasting signals, you probably shouldn't look toward the stars where it's bright. You should look in the darkness. You should look toward the empty space between the stars where a signal might stand out more clearly, or you should look for other types of signals, infrared radiation from waste heat, for instance. Civilizations use energy, they generate heat. That heat has to go somewhere, and infrared radiation might be a better way to detect them than looking for light at the same wavelengths the stars are emitting. But even this brings us back to the same problem. You're only going to detect a civilization if they're producing enough waste heat, if that waste heat is detectable from where we are, and if we're looking in the right direction at the right time. The universe is big, and trying to find a civilization that's hiding is very, very hard. Now let me take a step back and think about what advanced really means. I think we sometimes imagine advanced civilizations as being like us, but just with better technology, spaceships, computers, communication systems. But what if an advanced civilization looks nothing like us? What if they think about problems in completely different ways? For instance, an advanced civilization might have solved their energy problems entirely. We talk about the Kardashev scale, which ranks civilizations by how much energy they can harness and use. A Type 1 civilization can harness all the energy of their home planet. A Type 2 civilization can harness the energy of their star. A Type 3 civilization can harness the energy of their entire galaxy. Now, if a civilization reaches that level of advancement, they wouldn't have the same constraints we have. Energy wouldn't be a problem for them. They could broadcast continuously if they wanted to. They could light up the universe. But here's the interesting thing. We don't see that. We don't see evidence of Type 2 or Type 3 civilizations. The universe is not lit up with signals from advanced alien civilizations. This actually supports the idea that either such civilizations don't exist or they exist, but they're deliberately staying quiet. And I find that second possibility much more interesting to think about. Let me give you another angle on this. Think about your own behavior. If you're playing a game and you don't know if there are other players or where they might be, would you immediately announce your presence and your location? Probably not. You'd probably be cautious. You'd probably look around first. You'd try to figure out what kind of world you're in, what the rules are, who else might be out there. Only after you understood the situation would you think about whether it was safe to reveal yourself. This is what I think advanced civilizations would do. They would be cautious. They would listen before they broadcast. They might spend millions of years just listening, gathering information about the universe, learning about which other civilizations are out there, figuring out who's friendly and who isn't. And only when they had enough information and felt safe would they consider broadcasting. But most civilizations would probably never broadcast. They would decide that the risks outweigh the benefits. They would remain in the dark. And the universe would be full of civilizations, all of them listening, all of them hiding, none of them broadcasting. The universe would be quiet. Now, there's one more thing I want to talk about, and it's what we might call the great filter problem. The great filter is an idea that tries to explain the Fermi Paradox. That's the question I've been dancing around this whole time. If there are so many stars and so many planets, why haven't we detected any alien civilizations yet? The great filter is whatever it is that's rare, whatever makes it unlikely for life to start, or unlikely for life to become intelligent, or unlikely for intelligent life to broadcast its presence. The filter is somewhere in the chain of events that leads from the beginning of the universe to an alien civilization saying hello. Now, there are different theories about where the filter is. Maybe it's very rare for life to start in the first place. We've only found it on Earth, after all, so it might be incredibly rare. Maybe the filter is in the development of intelligence. Maybe it's very hard for intelligent life to arise. Or maybe, and this is the possibility I've been exploring, maybe the filter is in the communication. Maybe it's very hard or very dangerous for civilizations to broadcast their presence. Maybe smart civilizations don't broadcast. If that's the case, then the great filter might be more of a great silence, a filter that selects for civilizations that stay quiet. And here's the thing that I find most fascinating about this. If this is true, it actually changes how we should approach the question. We shouldn't be looking for civilizations that are broadcasting. We should be thinking about how to detect civilizations that are trying not to be detected. We should be looking for evidence of megastructures, Dyson spheres, or other artifacts that advanced civilizations might build. We should be looking for waste heat. We should be looking for signs of engineering on a cosmic scale. But the problem is we don't see those things either. We don't see evidence of Dyson spheres or megastructures around other stars. We don't see evidence of massive engineering projects. We see mostly stars and planets and empty space. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that either there aren't any advanced civilizations out there yet, or they're hidden so well that we can't find them. And I think that's actually okay. I think that's a reasonable conclusion. We live in a universe that appears to be mostly empty, mostly silent, and mostly dark. Not because there's nothing else out there, but because anything that's out there is being very careful not to advertise itself. And maybe that's wisdom. Maybe that's what advanced civilizations learn, that safety comes from silence, that staying hidden is more valuable than being found. And in a universe like that, the brightest thing, the light that shines the furthest, isn't the light of a civilization announcing itself. It's the light of the stars themselves, burning away, minding their own business, going about their existence without drawing attention to themselves. Now, I want to come back to where we started because I think there's a practical implication here. We keep talking about broadcasting signals into space. There have been serious suggestions that we send messages out into the universe, that we deliberately announce our presence. Some people have even thought about sending signals towards specific star systems where life might exist. And I think that, given everything I've talked about, we should be very, very cautious about doing that. Not because I'm sure there are hostile aliens waiting for us, I don't know that, but because I don't know that there aren't. And in a situation where you don't know something, where you're facing uncertainty, you should probably be careful. It's like walking into a dark room. You don't know what's in there. You could turn on the light, which would let you see everything, but it would also let everything in the room see you. You might want to proceed cautiously. You might want to listen first. You might want to feel your way along the wall before you announce your presence. We live in a dark room, the universe. We're here, we're aware, we're intelligent. We'd like to connect with others like us, but we don't know who else is in the room, and I think that's reason enough to be cautious about turning on the lights. Here's what I think is the most likely scenario. The universe is full of life. It's probably full of intelligent life, probably full of civilizations that have discovered the same things we're discovering, that have asked the same questions we're asking. But almost all of them have come to the same conclusion, that broadcasting is dangerous or wasteful or both. So they're all listening, they're all watching, they're all waiting for someone else to make a mistake, to light up the universe and reveal their location. And in that universe, signals are rare. Civilizations don't announce themselves. The creatures that are most likely to survive, that are most likely to thrive, are the ones that learn to keep quiet. Now, am I certain about all of this? No, I'm not. I'm thinking out loud with you. I'm trying to follow the logic where it leads. And the logic seems to lead toward a universe that is mostly dark and mostly silent, not because there's nothing out there, but because the things that are out there are smart enough to stay quiet. But here's the beautiful thing about science and about being wrong. We can test this. We can keep looking. We can improve our instruments. We can listen more carefully. We can look for megastructures. We can search for waste heat. We can refine our searches and our methods. And maybe someday we'll detect something. Maybe we'll find evidence of advanced civilizations hiding in the infrared, or building Dyson spheres, or doing things so advanced that we don't even recognize what we're seeing. But until that day comes, I think we should be humble about what we don't know. I think we should be cautious about announcing ourselves. And I think we should remember that the most intelligent thing we can do is to listen, to learn, and to wait, to let the universe tell us its secrets rather than forcing it to tell them by making ourselves as bright as we can. The light of the stars is beautiful. It tells us about physics, about nuclear fusion, about the fundamental nature of the universe. But the civilizations we're looking for, if they're out there, aren't where the light is. They're in the darkness, listening, just like we are. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most important lesson. That in a universe so vast and so full of uncertainty, the creatures that survive aren't the ones that broadcast their presence. They're the ones that know when to keep quiet. They're the ones that stay hidden until they're sure it's safe to be found.